I think it's a bit the nature of London, which is so diverse. So, I don't know, through their colonial history, it's extremely diverse place, especially East London, where we are, which always has been the point of arrival for a lot of these different cultures to come. So that's probably one factor. So it's not really such an issue for us. There are just a lot of people from all over the place. How is it to start an office within that? It's nice. I mean, it's quite organic, so it's not like you sit down and I want to have a multicultural office. It's more, I think, the thematics that you start to define through your work which attract certain people, and they happen to come from across different cultures. Having said that, at the moment, for example, we have a lot of Italians coming through, and that probably has to do with the economic situation in Italy and especially young people going abroad to find work. And London is the kind of mecca for a lot of people to find work, also in architecture. So yeah, so it often has to do also with a kind of more global economic situation or European economic situation. I don't know if there's, I don't think it causes so much conflict, the different backgrounds. I actually never have discussed it. In terms of disciplines, I think that's part of why we did it, to be between art and architecture and research and design. And that's something we always encouraged. And I don't think it's, I guess the kind of different ways of seeing that come with each discipline always attracted us. So to kind of find out what the space in between those disciplines is has always been a place we felt quite comfortable in. So in between architects and art, yeah, we somehow don't belong really to either world, but we also belong to either world. And that kind of position is quite unusual. And we kind of always positioned ourselves in between those in-between spaces, so it's quite normal for us by now. But it's not a conflict. It's not kind of it's not a negative tension. It's a productive one. So social, I think it's very clear this kind of neoliberal logic that's playing out very strongly in London and in East London specifically. The kind of complete withdrawal of government, the dismantling of the welfare state, and this idea that that Thatcher brought forward, that there is no society, there's only the individual. And that kind of attitude in the UK is quite strong again. And I think that's one change we're working around a lot. So that's, I think, a key moment for us to work. Environmental, again, I think we are interested in how maybe a local and self-determined practices can be more sustainable. So we call them eco-civic practices. So they're on the one hand ecological and sustainable, but also deal with ideas of citizenship and civicness. So a lot of our projects kind of gravitate around those subjects. So in terms of the, I guess, lines of inquiry, maybe you call them, they are quite constant, but they also do change a little bit the more you find out. So you reframe things. So whereas in the beginning we were generally interested in participation, that can become more kind of nuanced in the way we talk about that. So now we talk more about civic spaces instead of public, and talk about civic practices more than yeah, the focus maybe has shifted towards the idea of a process and the object through that research. So I think that's the ongoing conversation you have amongst the group, but also through the projects, things you find out. But there is never like we sit down and say, okay, now we have to stop talking about one thing, we start talking about another. It's more like an organic process of you have discovered something in one project, and you maybe explore this in a new one. In terms of funding, it's a mix. I mean, we get invited to do projects, we write funding application, we initiate our own projects, we do things for free because we like doing certain things or think they're important. It's a complete mixed bag. And that's, I think, also important to retain a certain independence, that you don't have you're not purely reliant on one source of income, but you actually always, also in a project, have different financial support to have a certain independence. So there's certain projects that are quite clearly projects. They have a start and an end. But then there are also maybe what you might call more initiatives or research projects that run much longer, and they're more based around a thematic, and maybe different opportunities, different projects feed into that. So one is an exploration on the civic home. You know, how can a home be also understood as a civic space, a public space? So that plays out over different projects. So the term, there is no society, there's only the individual, it's not our position. It was a position put forward by Margaret Thatcher. The term public works is twofold. On the one hand, we believe that the public does work, it can work. So it's a response to that. There is a public and it can work as an idea. It's also kind of a department, an infrastructure department that was privatized. So it's a kind of, it's a statement that we still believe that there should be a public, the idea of a public that works. Of course, the whole practice is based on the idea of a closeness to those we are dealing with. So participation, co-production, all these are really important concepts in our work. So we constantly talk to a lot of people. I don't think it's so direct or didactic as you make it sound like. It's not like I go to someone and saying, you're my target group, tell me something. It's more like through certain processes, maybe of building something and being a host, inviting someone in to join, or doing something in the public which attracts certain attention, you start a kind of conversation or a relationship of sort. And often around these projects, they generate their own communities in a way. Sometimes for a short moment of time, sometimes longer. And how you generate these communities, that's kind of a key interest of ours. And talking is one, making is another, a firework is another. You know, it's a kind of different strategies to approach people.